For most of the country, the season of fall is marked by either the changing of the weather or the autumn equinox.
But for some, there is a different marker, a more recent beacon signaling the beginning of fall.
Some consider it the caffeinated ritual beverage for the harvest season. We're, of course, discussing the pumpkin spice latte.
But where did this drink come from, and how did it conquer 3 months of the year? I'm Rihanna Winter.
And I'm Jason Acuna.
And this is Unbothered by WFSU.
So we're joined here today by our interim news director, Regan McCarthy. Hello, Regan.
Oh, hey, guys.
So, Regan, my understanding is you've never had a pumpkin spice latte?
Yeah, maybe like the opposite of that.
Really?
I celebrate pumpkin spice season with all of my other millennial women who are of like minds, like me.
You participate in the ritual?
Yes, very much.
What is your favorite part of a pumpkin spice latte? Is it the pumpkin spice? Is it the act of drinking it?
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with what the pumpkin spice latte tastes like. I mean, we're talking about the latte here, right? Pumpkin spice latte. Nothing about what the beverage tastes like. It's about the experience and the fact that the beverage has come to be. It's time. Pumpkin spice latte season is here. And along with that, that means it's time to watch our favorite movies. You've got mail. It's time to get ready for Halloween. It's time practical magic. Time to watch practical magic. Time to think about new beginnings. It's fall. The air is crisp. We get to wear sweaters. And even though I live in Florida, where none of those things are realistic things to do, I don't care. It's not about the actual weather outside. It's about the experience that we get to be part of now. Pumpkin spice latte season is a state of mind.
Now, it's also something that costs money. It is a paid experience. Do you feel like you might be kind of being swayed as a consumer?
Oh, yes. I think, sure. Lots of things that make me happy are just marketing schemes, right? Like I also enjoy Christmas. I enjoy Valentine's Day. I enjoy Disney World. I think, sure, did some marketer figure out that there's a way to get a bunch of people who have lived experiences that are similar to mine to get really excited about fall by putting out a spiced beverage? Sure. Is that a bad thing? No. Why is that bad?
Well, we were super interested in how the pumpkin spice latte just took over and completely became so heavily associated with fall. So we spoke with a professor of marketing that has been studying this phenomenon for quite a while.
I'm Colleen Harmeline. I am the Persis E. Rockwood Professor of Marketing at Florida State University.
All right, hello, Professor. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I'll just jump right into it. So what made pumpkin spice lattes and pumpkin spice flavoring so popular?
Well, I've spent the last 15 years studying storytelling, and marketers are generally the best storytellers on the planet. And this is a quote from Steve Jobs. He also often would say things like that. And what I think Starbucks did in particular to make this such an iconic drink in our culture is they created what I have been calling multi-sensory storytelling. And so it's storytelling that evokes taste and smells, and not only does it evoke taste and smells, but it connected those tastes and smells to these culturally shared aspects of the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And in these shared rituals, so things like Thanksgiving and the holidays, those smells are so closely tied to nostalgic memories of who we are. And so I think that's what made it something that we all sort of held on to. What's made it successful year over year, I think, is that they have always done this seasonally. And when you make something seasonal, it kind of tempers that burnout period where people could overindulge. You can overindulge on pumpkin spice. And in a couple of months, we will see people who have overindulged on pumpkin spice. But then it's over. And so then you get to look forward to this again for an entire year when you will once again overindulge on pumpkin spice. So that seasonality kind of creates a little bit of scarcity for us.
So it's not necessarily the flavoring alone that people are looking forward to, but the season and everything around it. That's why people might buy pumpkin spice shirts or pumpkin spice dog treats, things that they're not actually tasting. Is that what you feel?
I think it is. I think there's something about being shared with others. You know, once it becomes a movement, then you're part of this with all these other people, and that movement represents something. And so to me, it represents this cultural storytelling that we have as part of the U.S. culture.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that companies like Starbucks, or specifically Starbucks, did something called multi-sense marketing.
Multi-sensory storytelling. So they tried out all these different flavors when they were coming up with pumpkin spice, and this is the one that evoked the most for the customers that tried this. And so I think the reason that it evoked this most, and I don't know if they did this intentionally or not, is because it's so tied to these rituals that we share. And so intentional or inadvertently, I think they tapped into a storyline that resonated with broad audiences and became a part of what they look forward to each and every year. So just like we look forward to Christmas, we look forward to pumpkin spice lattes as the lead up to that next season. But yeah.
And so you're saying they didn't have to maybe particularly market much other than making the drink available yearly and taking it away, and regular association to the season helped a lot?
Oh, yes. The regular association, I think, absolutely helped a ton. But I do think they have marketed quite savvily, you know, and in today's day and age, most of that marketing, what used to be coming from the firm, has now shifted to these influencers and consumer voices who are the sort of conduits of the firm into consumer culture. And so we see a ton of memes. You know, you said the pumpkin spice latte shirts, you see bumper stickers. I even saw an article on someone getting a pumpkin spice tattoo. And so, you know, which breaks all the seasonality things we just talked about. You know, you're going to wear that tattoo for the rest of your life. But so yeah, I do think they were very savvy in how they disseminated this idea across culture. So starting off with promotional campaigns, you know, that's a big decision in marketing, is how long are you going to run a product for? And so they decided they would start it when the weather started getting cool. So that's another part of the sensation, you know. So not only are they creating smells and tastes with the actual product, but they're associating it with that feel of fall as well. And so I think they were very intentional in how they marketed at first. Now the marketing is less important because it has taken on its own cultural relevance. But yeah.
Absolutely. And have there been any other similar campaigns that have kind of used this sensory storytelling or have maybe taken over a season like the pumpkin spice latte has?
You know, one campaign that I really loved was this campaign by Whirlpool, and it wasn't really multi-sensory, but it was definitely storytelling. And so they were trying to target a totally new demographic, which was stay-at-home dads, or even just very involved dads. And in doing that, they had to retell the story of who was supposed to touch that washing machine. And so what they did is they created this hashtag that was about Whirlpool stories that allowed consumers to send those in. And from those stories, they generated actual campaigns. So it was this nice kind of voice of consumer where the consumer was able to tell the story for the firm explicitly. And that translated into true commercials and banner ads after that. But yeah.
Has Starbucks ever tried to recreate their pumpkin spice season in a different season, you think?
You know, I don't know if that would work for the same reason that the cold weather is such a big part of that storytelling. And you do see it creeping up early and earlier every year. So, you know, this time it came out, I think, September 1st. And, you know, it used to be October when we would see pumpkin spice latte. And so I think if they push a little bit further, if we get into August when we're all just drenched in sweat and so hot all day, I don't know that it's going to evoke the same feel for the consumer. It's sort of like when you start seeing Halloween stuff, you know, too early, or Christmas products before Halloween. You start to get that irritated or annoyed consumer that's like, you're just doing this to extend the season and capitalize on us. But
yeah. And I guess for some people, the pumpkin spice season must mark the beginning of fall, or
Yeah.
you're switching over. So it is important that they maintain that distinction.
Right, and keep that start date, at least in some way, tracking with the seasons. And also, like, not just the natural seasons and the weather, but our own holiday season markers. Those holiday seasons, when they stretch too long, get exhausting and a little tricky to manage. But yeah.
I have a question I want to throw at you. A product that I feel might be slightly similar, I'm not sure how much exactly, would be kind of a McDonald's Shamrock Shake, how it also kind of is a seasonal.
Yes.
It comes out at a certain time. However, it maybe is more associated with St. Patrick's Day than a season, like the spring season in general.
Right.
Is there any similarity there between the marketing of those products?
I think there probably would be. It just doesn't have as much cultural relevance. I don't see it having that widespread sort of iconic effect as pumpkin spice, but you're right, people do look forward to it. Or as you were talking, I was even thinking the McRib, McRib has nothing to do with storytelling or seasons, but was this very seasonal product they would offer that people begged to come back. And so I think the Shamrock Shake was actually taken off the menu for a period of time and then by consumer demand brought back. And so you do see these seasonal products that consumers tend to fight for their existence. But you see ones that fail. We had that unicorn shake by Starbucks that just never really took off. It was sort of a wild blend of fluorescent pinks, purples, and blues, and I don't think that one has returned yet, but
Yeah, so they don't always they're not always successes and
Right, but the Shamrock Shake is the most similar to the pumpkin spice latte. I just think St. Patrick's Day doesn't have the same following as things like Thanksgiving and Christmas, Right. And so it's not as nostalgic for as broad a number of consumers for them to sort of pull that storyline through in their marketing of that product.
Right, and so based on everything you know about the pumpkin spice latte and the marketing behind it, do you expect for it to continue to be so heavily associated with fall indefinitely, or is there any trendy aspects to this? Do you think at some point we will stop hearing about the pumpkin spice latte around fall time?
It's stood the test of time. It's been around for 25 years, which is kind of remarkable. And there are other things that have become permanent staples on coffee shop menus, like a macchiato or a cappuccino. Those are sort of what we expect or even the matcha latte. So the matcha latte is a very good example of a modern addition to the coffee shop. And so I actually think this one could stand the test of time for the reasons we discussed and the fact that they keep it so seasonal that even if you overindulge, by the time the season rolls around next year, you're ready to overindulge again. And so as long as they don't spread it too far into those hot weather seasons, I think they will probably be able to weather a long run staple on the menu.
Absolutely. Well, Professor, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about what goes into the pumpkin spice latte phenomenon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Unbothered is produced, edited, and hosted by Jason Acuna. Also hosted by Rihanna Winter. Audio engineering by Taylor Cox and Evan Rossi. Executive producers Regan McCarthy and Lynn Hatter. And brought to you by WFSU Public Media.